You think you can't get a job? This guy got the head coaching job for the Denver Broncos. If you're watching the NBA next year, and you are, you know, year 20. It's year 20. Year 20. Guys, who is doing this in year 20? Year 20, guys. It's fucking year 20. What does that mean? That's why I'm here. LeBron James is going into year 20. And, fuck, I forgot to look up the numbers. I'll put them up here. The Kareem record. Most points all time. Now, I don't know why this stat is just counted as regular season points. It should just be total points you've ever scored on an NBA basketball court in a real game that counts. Because the playoffs, certainly, they do matter, right? Like, the amount of points you can score in a playoff game should probably count into your career totals, no? So, LeBron has already passed Kareem in my book. But, whatever, the record book's book. He hasn't passed him yet. I think he's going to this season, right? If I'm not mistaken, I feel like that gap is closing, and I think that should be a thing that happens. Actually, before we get into that, let's just do a little recap of last year. Obviously, the Lakers, complete shit show, tanked the season near the end. How did you not even make the play-in game? Whatever, you can make all the jokes you want about, like, it's an old folks home. It was an old folks home, let's be honest. 5 Hall of Famers. Oh, LeBron couldn't make the playoffs with 5 Hall of Famers. You know, all the banter, it's fine. But, like, you actually couldn't beat the Spurs out. The Spurs traded their second best player at the trade deadline to tank, and they still beat you guys out. What the hell? All right. Obviously, that's a little bit overdue. It's just something that's baffling to me. You have one of the greatest players of all time on your team. He only played 56 games last year. That's why I was talking about the Kareem record before, is because a lot of people thought LeBron was stat padding just so he could get that record, or just stat padding in general, just to make it seem like he was doing his thing. What's everybody else doing? You know, if you look at the numbers, me personally, I'm not the biggest into the idea that the box score is going to tell you who did the best in a game. Like, you got to watch the game. It's about winning the game. I do believe you can score like 10 points in a game or less and be the best player on the court in a game. Like, it's possible. It's been done. That being said, I'm not sitting here saying that he's stat padding. I mean, there were some games where he was a little bit. It happened. But I just want to know if this is going to be a repeat of last year or if it's going to be a new year. And I think that's the biggest question that we have, everybody has. I know the Lakers have been making moves in the offseason, like what they can do. Like, they tried to trade Russell Westbrook. It's not like they just wanted to run it back. Like, we know they tried. That is a tough-ass contract to move, obviously. They want to distance themselves as far as possible from most of the team they had last year. Like, whatever we did last year, blow that shit the fuck up, besides LeBron and AD. And Austin Reeves, I guess, because that's your promising young player, which, I mean, that's the Lakers organization. After LeBron leaves, I get they have AD, but if he can't stay on the court, they're going to have a problem. Like, they're going to be bad for a long time, because I don't know what they have in the way of assets. They traded everybody to get Russell Westbrook, which was like the dumbest trade of all time already. It's like already the worst trade in NBA history, maybe. How do you bounce back from that? Let's take a look at LeBron last year, averaging 30 points a game in his 19th season and shooting his highest rate of three-pointers ever and his lowest rate of free throws ever. Lowest assist rate in 15 years, but his lowest turnover rate in 10 years. So you get some good and some bad, but I mean, the biggest red flag is obviously the amount of wins. Stats can only tell us so much, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Obviously, he wasn't exactly built the greatest team for him to operate with. And so I guess because of that, his game has to be more scoring-centric. And, you know, he's getting older. It's a lot harder when you're nearing 40 years old to blow by young guys and finish in traffic against 2 guys than it might have been when you were 25 or whatever. So LeBron is more perimeter-centric at this point. He's still not a great three-point shooter. Very hot and cold. He's obviously going to get a lot of them up, but that's just because he takes a lot of shots. So, of course, at this point of his career, he's going to be shooting more threes, just, you know, the way the league is going. Obviously, Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook are the biggest X factors this year, because the Lakers, on paper, look at the players they have. The depth is not great, obviously, but you got LeBron, and you got an amazing number 2. If AD is playing, that's one of the best number 2s in the league. If Russell Westbrook is any version of Russell Westbrook besides last year, that's a great number 3. But the expectation for him is that he's not even going to be good enough to be an all-star type player. That window is closed from the perspective of most people around the league. Most people in the league don't even want that guy anymore. They're not going near him. Nobody was looking at that trade, period. I mean, I'm sure the Lakers sent out trades to a lot of different teams. And you see what happens. Like, it's that hard to get this guy out of their team. it's that hard to move this guy right now, especially on that contract, but everyone's just forgotten. Russell Westbrook has been a fucking great player in the NBA every year of his career pretty much until last year. Obviously, it was a tremendous fall from grace, but first of all, he's just in a terrible situation. He should have never been in the first place. Doesn't make sense for him. Not to say that he's not to blame at all for not accepting a role, because I think, yeah, the ego was definitely a large contributor to the complete mess that was last year for the Lakers. Fans are turning on him. He knows the team doesn't really like him, doesn't want him there. So it's hard for him to imagine that dynamic is good, but I do think it's really interesting that you add a guy like Pat Bev to the mix. There's so many personalities in this team now with Russ, Pat Bev, LeBron. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen with that. I mean, could they just mesh together and it'd be a perfect storm? We know they're going to clash, or is it just going to be a complete crash? Darvin Ham has got his work cut out for him. I'm sure that Greg Popovich could have maybe built this system that works to play Russell Westbrook, LeBron, and AD and a non-shooting center together in today's NBA. But like, dude, Frank Vogel or just your average NBA head coach wants no part of a roster that looks like this or a starting five, starting unit that looks like that. I mean, that's just fucking ridiculous. It just goes back to what the Lakers were doing. So this video is about LeBron, and I guess like his approach to the season will be dependent on what the hell is going on, if anyone's going to take this shit seriously, if these guys are going to come out, if AD's going to actually play more than 60 games in a season, if Russ is going to be a version of Russ that resembles, greatness. It's hard for me to think of who is on that team besides those three, Pat Beverley, Austin Reeves. They got Damian Jones. They got a bunch of just random-ass players that are just not going to contribute much individually. So maybe as a unit, Darvin Ham can be the guy that puts all the pieces in the right place. But there is so much on the shoulders of him, AD, Russell Westbrook. I think LeBron is generally a constant in terms of he's going to be on the court. I guess not last year. I mean, he missed a lot of games last year. He has dealt with more injuries in the last few years than he had like in his entire career. But generally, LeBron is good to go. And I think if your team is doing better, I think there's more of an incentive to play through a slight injury. But I don't know, going into year 20, maybe you might be dealing with a little bit more of a nagging injury that keeps you out of games that wouldn't have kept you out of games 5 years ago. I still think there are a few, like, there were some of those hypothetical, like, if they had ended up being able to move Westbrook and another piece, this is the problem. You already got rid of THT. You don't have much of any way of any assets at all. You might have to get rid of Austin Reeves to pull off a trade like this, but like, you could land a Buddy Hield and a Miles Turner, like budget players that fill a specific role that you need, like maybe that rim protection and spacing the floor. They still would need another perimeter defender. Pat Bev is their only perimeter defender really right now. I don't think you're that many moves away from, if everyone's playing, like this being a great team. If LeBron and AD are playing, and whether Westbrook's playing, whether he's not playing, like what if they buy him out, or what if they just say go home? Like that they could do that if things don't work out well from the start. They might just say, you know what, go home. We don't want you we're not even gonna play you, which is insane. But there were even trades or trade ideas with like Mike Conley and Bojan Bogdanovic. Those are some guys that can shoot the ball. I mean, maybe some of the guys they added can shoot the ball a little bit, but Mike Conley and Bogdanovic are playoff seasoned veteran solid players, especially Bogdanovic. I mean, that's like an 18 to 20 point score maybe. So I like that Indiana package, like Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. If you could just get those guys, they've probably already offered that trade. So I don't know if that's probably not going to happen. But I feel like the Lakers have some very clear needs still, like they did last year. They still do. Like even with the star talent, obviously they don't have the depth. AD's probably going to have to play center because they're just, I don't know if their bigs are going to be sufficient, which he doesn't like to do, right? I don't know. You still need shooting, and you still need perimeter defense. You got Pat Bev, who addresses that a little bit. You lost Carmelo Anthony, who was like one of your best three-point shooters, and Malik Monk, who was your best three-point shooter. So honestly, the shooting's even worse. Like they got some of these wing players that can kind of shoot. Their shooting is going to be worse if they don't get somebody else. Honestly, I would look for LeBron to have another year where he's just not putting up a lot of assists because, I don't know, I guess it depends on Russell Westbrook. If Russell Westbrook's playing, he's going to have less assists, LeBron. Even if Russell Westbrook's not playing, LeBron's going to be more looking for his own shot probably. They do need to run more offense through AD just in general. If AD's out there, he's got to be the center of the offense on a lot of possessions. I don't know. Like, LeBron can play his ass off. He'll get in the All-Star game. no question. Probably get the All-NBA team. It's hard to imagine just a steep fall off. Like, he's LeBron. He's had a long offseason, no playoffs to recharge. It doesn't really seem like being in year 20 or being in year whatever does much damage to him. Like, we can see a slight decline each year, but it's not much. I mean, he's generally still LeBron, so this team is not anything more than a play-in team to me, I don't think. Because you can't trust AD to stay on the court. You just can't. If we're talking about AD plays 70 games, then yeah, totally different story, but that's just not like, that has never been something you can bet on or rely on. So it's going to be a roller coaster ride. And, you know, there's always a little bit of hype. It's LeBron, it's the Lakers, but that culture had to do a complete 180. That's the only way this can work. Darvin Ham obviously is a huge part. But yeah, LeBron year 20, it's probably going to be a lot of the same. It's hard for me to imagine, you know, from his perspective, like they're going to try to win more games, but I think, yeah, maybe his stats might not be as good. They probably win more than 33 games or whatever they won last year. I think LeBron will be LeBron, and a lot of how he approaches games, approaches this season will rely on what's going on around him. And that's why, you know, this video kind of had to deal with that for most of it. But anyway, that's going to do it. Let me know what y'all think. LeBron year 20, you're going to be hearing that a lot.